Now let's see something called as convoy effect. Okay, what is meant by convoy effect? A smaller process, again this is also a disadvantage, which means in case if an algorithm has convoy effect problem, we say that that algorithm has a disadvantage. Okay, now in case if we say that an algorithm is free from convoy effect problem, it means that that algorithm has an advantage. Okay, fine. A smaller process, what is meant by smaller process? Process with very small execution time or process with very small burst time. Okay, that is what we mean by smaller process. Waiting for one big process to get off or release the CPU. Okay, that is what we mean by convoy effect. An algorithm with convoy effect problem may lead to higher waiting time and higher turnaround time in comparison to an algorithm without convoy effect problem. Okay, let's see this anyway. Okay, see, before seeing that, let us understand these two tables. Okay, first let's take this table. Okay, let us assume we are using FCFS scheduling algorithm. Okay, first come first served scheduling algorithm. Now what will happen? Process P1 will be scheduled first because P1 has the first process which has arrived to the RAM. So it has arrived at time unit 0 and its execution time is 1000 nanoseconds. Okay, so it will continue till 1000, and then for process P, whereas for process P2 it will start at 1000 and it will run for exactly 2 nanoseconds. Okay, it will go only till 2 nanoseconds. So 1002, sorry, okay, it is 1002 nanoseconds. Fine. Now what's actually happening is this is P1 and this is P2. Okay, now what is happening is P2's execution time is just 2 nanoseconds. Okay, but for that it is waiting for such a long time to get the CPU because process P1 has arrived to the RAM before P2. Okay, that is what we do in first come first served scheduling algorithm. The algorithm which has come to the RAM first will be scheduled first. Fine. Now this is actually a disadvantage. Why? See, it is very simple. Okay, let us assume there is a supermarket. Okay, there is a supermarket and three people are waiting in a queue. There is a supermarket counter and three people are waiting in a queue to pay the money. Okay, they have bought the products and they wanted to pay the money. Now let us assume this guy has bought lot of products. Okay, he has bought lot of products and he has let us assume he has bought some 100 products. Okay, 100 products, and so to bill him, which means to enter all the products in the computer which he has bought, it will take lot of time. Okay, now whereas this guy has bought exactly one product. Okay, this guy has bought only exactly one product. Now what will happen is this guy might have to wait for a long time to get his bill. Okay, generally what we do, the person who has bought the product will request this guy that I have bought just only one product, so let me first get the bill and go. Okay, so most of the times this is what will happen in our day-to-day life. But now our question is, among the process, this is actually first come first served scheduling algorithm, right? Now in FCFS, process P1 is executing first before process P2. There is no way that process P2 can request P1 and get executed first before P1, right? So clearly FCFS scheduling algorithm suffers from the problem of convoy effect. That is what convoy effect means. Okay, a smaller process waits for one big process to release the CPU. Okay, so that it can get the CPU and execute. Okay, so that is what we mean by convoy effect problem. Now the question is, now why FCFS led to this convoy effect problem? Because in FCFS we schedule process which has arrived to the RAM first. Now in case if the process which has arrived to the RAM first is a bigger process and the process which is arriving to the RAM next is a smaller process, in that case FCFS will lead to convoy effect. Okay, so FCFS clearly suffers from the problem of starvation. Okay, fine. Now will SJF suffer from the problem of starvation? You might say that SJF actually schedules the process with the shortest burst time. Okay, SJF schedules the process with the shortest burst time, and so there is no chance for a small process to wait for a big process to release the CPU. But actually the idea is actually wrong. Okay, you are almost there, but you are some mistake you are doing. The reason is The definition for SJF is among the arrived processes, process with the shortest burst time will be scheduled first. Okay, that is what SJF means. The important key word here is among the arrived processes. Now, what if a process with a bigger burst time arrives first? In case if a process with a bigger burst time arrives first, that will be scheduled, right? And SJF is a non-preemptive scheduling algorithm. Even if a smaller process comes next, the bigger process will not be preempted. So what is actually happening here? Smaller process is waiting for one big process to release the CPU so that this small process can utilize the CPU. And that is what we mean by convoy effect, right? So clearly SJF suffers from the problem of convoy effect, right? So now tell me whether SRTF suffers from convoy effect or not. SRTF will not suffer from convoy effect. The reason is very simple, okay? Now in SRTF, let us assume there is a bigger process which is arrived to the RAM first and so it has been scheduled. Now let us assume there is a smaller process which is coming to the RAM. In case of SJF, we cannot do anything because it is a non-preemptive scheduling algorithm. But in case of SRTF, what we generally do is we actually preempt the bigger process and we give the smaller process to the RAM. We give the smaller process, okay? We give the smaller process to the CPU. So I see, rather than using my hands, let me explain it using the diagram, okay? This is what will happen in FCFS. The same will happen in case of SJF as well, because among the arrived processes, only at time unit 0, only P1 has arrived and so P1 has been scheduled. After that, P2 has been scheduled, okay? Fine. We can't do anything about it. But in case if we would have used SRTF, what could have happened is at time unit 0, P1 will be scheduled because P1 is the only process which came to the RAM. See, I am using this table, not this, okay? Don't think about this right now. Now, P1 has been scheduled at time unit 0, that is fine. But at time unit 1, once P2 came into the RAM, since P2's execution time, we have executed for 1 nanosecond, right? So it becomes 999 nanoseconds. Now P2 will be scheduled because P2's priority is higher than that of P1, okay? So P2 will continue till 3 nanoseconds and then P1 will be scheduled, okay? P1 will execute for another 999 nanoseconds. So 999 plus 3 is 1002, okay? So 1002. So here there is no convoy effect problem because there is nothing like a small process is waiting for big process to get off the CPU, okay? Here there is nothing like that. Once a smaller process arrives, in case of SRTF, we will preempt the bigger process and then we will schedule the smaller process. And so SRTF will not suffer from the problem of convoy effect. Okay, fine. Now let's see this point. An algorithm with convoy effect problem may lead to higher waiting time and higher turnaround time in comparison to an algorithm without convoy effect problem. Why is this true? Let's see this. Okay, see, now coming to this, what is the waiting time here? What is the average waiting time here? See, this is SRTF, okay? This is an algorithm named as SRTF. This will not suffer from convoy effect problem. This is actually using FCFS. Either you use FCFS or SJF for this table, you will get the same Gantt chart, okay? Now, this will have lesser waiting time and turnaround time, whereas this will have higher waiting time and turnaround time. Why? Here waiting time of, let's first see the waiting time, okay? Here waiting time of process P1 is 0, fine. Waiting time of process P2 is 1000, right? It waits for 1000 nanoseconds, okay? Now coming to this, waiting time of process P1 is just 2 nanoseconds, right? Because it waits for this 2 nanoseconds to get the CPU here. So waiting time of P1 is 2 nanoseconds, okay? Whereas waiting time of P2 is 0, right? P2 doesn't wait. P2 once comes into the RAM, it immediately gets the CPU. So P2's waiting time is 0. Now if you take average of this two, 0 plus 2 divided by 2, it becomes 1. So its waiting time is just 1 nanoseconds. Whereas if you calculate average of this, 0 plus 100 is 100, 100 divided by 2 is 500. So its average waiting time is 500 nanoseconds. So an algorithm with convoy effect problem may lead to higher waiting time in comparison to an algorithm without convoy effect problem. Okay, this is very much evident from this example. Okay, see, in case if waiting time will increase, our turnaround time will also increase, right? Because our turnaround time is a combination of IO time plus waiting time plus burst time, right? Now, in case if this keeps on increasing, this will also increase, right? Or in simple words, I can say that in case if the waiting time of a process to get the CPU increases, then the total time spent by a process inside the RAM, which is what we mean by turnaround time, okay, that will also increase, right? So clearly, an algorithm with convoy effect may have higher waiting time and higher turnaround time in comparison to an algorithm without convoy effect.